Tonight, the family of Megan Gallagher waits for answers after Saskatoon police discover human remains while searching for the missing woman. Also, a frightening school lockdown in Regina last month has reignited the conversation about how replica weapons can pose a real threat. Plus, after being beat up by the Bombers, the Riders focus on the last 3 games of their season.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Monday, October 3rd, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening and thank you for watching. Police have made several breakthroughs in the investigation of Megan Gallagher's suspicious disappearance from Saskatoon. And last week, investigators found human remains that could be linked to the missing 30-year-old woman. Gallagher went missing in September of 2020, and in January of 2021, the missing persons case became a homicide investigation. To date, 8 people have been charged in connection with the suspected killing. Their charges ranging from first-degree murder to assault in confinement to committing an indignity to human remains. Late last week, police started an extensive search for Megan Gallagher's remains, and just hours in, they did find human remains. That identity still needs to be confirmed with forensic tests, but Gallagher's father, Brian, says the family thinks it's her.
When they brought the remains up, I was reminded of how many times I'd rocked the kids to sleep and sung them lullabies, and those are memories that we still have. I'm reminded of first days of school, of hockey practices, of all of the things. So, and sharing stories with other families too. That's some of the ways we get through it.
Brian Gallagher says the discovery does not bring closure, because true closure would be being able to hug his daughter again. But he says family and friends are relieved the investigation continues to progress. Last month, several Regina schools were put in lockdown after a teenager was spotted in a high school with what looked like a legitimate long gun. Now, it turns out it was a replica, but Regina police are reminding people fakes can be just as problematic as real ones. Maureen Mugerwa reports.
It may sound like a real gun going off, but it's actually a replica. Something similar to the one a 13-year-old girl brought to F.W. Johnson High School last month. That teen was charged with assault with a weapon despite the fact that it wasn't real. And police say just because they are fake does not mean they can't pose a serious threat. They can cause injury to others, but also to a person carrying one, since police have to assume they are real.
There is greater accessibility in the community, and that's something where I think parents and adults need to be aware of and try and educate children on the importance, I say children, but often it's youth, on the importance of using them properly.
Some manufacturers will put an orange end on the gun to differentiate it from one that is real. John Mead says he got his first airsoft gun 20 years ago. He agrees that they should be treated as real guns because they can pose a risk.
Treat it with respect. Treat it as if it's loaded. Watch where your muzzle is. Keep your finger off the trigger unless you're ready to shoot things. Don't mess around. Don't be silly with it. Don't take it places where people might get panicked.
People don't need a possession and acquisition license to get a replica gun. Police say about 171 of the 442 firearms seized this year were found to be airsoft, BB, or pellet guns. And that is concerning.
Police not being able to tell that that is not a real firearm, and I worry about the consequences that can come from that. So they add all kinds of complexity to our community, and I just really encourage all of our community to understand that.
Bray says fake guns are often used to commit crimes in the city. They have also resulted in weapons charges. Back at the Pistol Club, Meade says pellet, paintball, and BB guns have their purpose, but they should be stored properly and kept out of the hands of kids, or they could be charged. Maureen Mugerwa, CBC News, Regina.
Researchers at the University of Saskatchewan say levels of COVID-19 are down in Prince Albert and Saskatoon this week. Wastewater samples show viral load has dropped by about 36% in Saskatoon and nearly 15% in Prince Albert. Now, this decrease comes after a month of increases. Researchers say rates are still high and several more weeks are needed to determine if things are actually dropping. Over at the University of Regina, its wastewater study shows COVID levels are the highest ever since the height of the last wave in April. A new parkade at the Regina General Hospital is one step closer to reality. A site has officially been chosen. It will exist here in the northwest part of what's now the visitor parking lot. It will have 800 stalls, and construction on it is expected to begin in spring of next year. The procurement will be a partial lease, so a third party will own, maintain, and operate the new parkade. The Saskatchewan Health Authority will then lease the structure from the third party. The SHA says it's working on planning to minimize disruptions to parking during the parkade's construction. According to the tender, the parkade completion is expected in 2024. The cost of some event tickets has gone up thanks to the province's latest tax hike effective October 1st. As part of the budget released in March, the government announced an expansion of the 6% PST charge. It would apply to entertainment, arts and culture event tickets, including theater and concert tickets and sporting events. The government originally included gym and fitness memberships too, but in August it reversed that decision. Arts and culture advocates say they feel let down not to be included in the PST reversal.
I spoke to a number of folks when that announcement came out that they were kind of taking, going to rescind that on the gym memberships and fitness. And yeah, I think folks were definitely disappointed. It's it's the last two years have been really, really hard on arts and cultural organizations.
Iron Star says her group has sent a letter to the Finance Minister and Minister of Culture. In it, they asked for revenue from the PST expansion to be invested into arts and culture. The government estimates the tax expansion will bring in about $18 million a year. Well, after a summer of high gas prices, drivers in parts of Canada are getting some relief. But in other places, it is a story of grief. Peggy Lamb reports.
Gas in some parts of the country are hitting record highs. In Manitoba, it's $1.85.
I think it's ridiculous how high the gas prices are because before I used to pay like $20. That's a lot already, but now $20, that won't even last me like 2 days.
It's a penny pincher for me right now, and I sure hope it goes down soon.
In BC, gas has hit $2.39 per litre, a record high for North America. But experts say this time it's not because of oil prices. They've fallen in recent months. Economist Vijay Murali-Duran says it's because 4 refineries in the U.S. have temporarily shut down for maintenance.
That kind of escalates demand-supply imbalance, and demand stays constant, prices go up.
Canadians are definitely feeling the pinch.
I had to actually sell my car because I can't afford the gas prices.
I'm no longer filling up my car. You know, it's a half a tank or a quarter of a tank, whatever I can afford.
Some, like Matt Allard, who's also running to be a Winnipeg City Councillor, are finding different ways of getting around, like riding their bikes or taking the bus.
Because in the bus I can do things like I can keep working, I can relax, I can make phone calls. There's all sorts of things you can do when you're on the bus that you can't do when you're driving.
In New Brunswick, prices have hit $1.67. Atlantic Canada relies on a refinery from the U.S. Gulf Coast, which is also in maintenance. And disruptions caused by Hurricane Fiona didn't help.
The containers carrying gasoline do not go to Atlantic region, so which means that they depend on Colonial Pipeline to supply all their needs.
Murali-Duran estimates that maintenance at these oil refineries should be done in about 4 weeks. After that, prices should level off. Peggy Lamb, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The federal government has signed a rare and historic agreement to give back land to a First Nation in Ontario. More than 120 hectares will be returned and $30 million will be paid out for the loss of the land's use. Olivia Stefanovic has that story.
This is the quarry, which is only a small portion of the claim.
The Kimmett family lives on the front line of a land claim battle, one they're hoping will end by transferring more than 120 hectares to the federal government.
We're in an unfortunate position where we're kind of in harm's way, and so we became willing sellers.
This land has been a source of conflict for decades, and even though these fields in the quarry down this road will be returned to the Mohawks of the Bay of Quinte, this only resolves part of the dispute. The town of Deseronto, Ontario, is built on the Mohawks' unsurrendered territory.
We are looking for the lands to be returned.
The chief is trying to reclaim more than 240 hectares and has made a financial offer to the town.
The facts are not often in Canada's favor.
The Crown Indigenous Relations Minister says he's considering changes to speed up the process, but the policy will remain willing seller, willing buyer.
This isn't an eviction notice by any stretch of the imagination. This is a process where there will be a consent-based approach to returning land.
I see this as nothing but a scam.
Some traditional members of the community are worried they won't be able to use the land they've fought for.
The Mohawk people are the owners of the land, not a federal institution such as the Band Council.
Even though this part of the land claim is settled, the fight is far from over. Olivia Stefanovich, CBC News, Deseronto, Ontario.
The Saskatchewan Roughriders are going into the last month of the CFL season with their work cut out for them. They have to find a way to win at least one of their remaining 3 games or face the possibility of not making the playoffs. Their loss in Winnipeg on Friday was their 4th straight defeat, knocking them out of contention in the West. Their only hope now, an Eastern crossover spot. The team with the best chance to knock them out of that spot is the Tiger Cats, and the 2 teams square off this Friday in Hamilton.
Guys are down a little bit, but, we came out today. We had an energetic practice. We understand what's going on and what's at stake. So, can't sit around and sulk about it. You got to go and, next play mentality, which is, our next game, next opportunity.
I showed them the standings this morning, and I thought that would do what it needed to, and I think it did. I showed them the East, I showed them the West, and I told them, we have 3 games left and we're at 6. So where we end up depends on a lot this weekend. So I think the guys realize the importance of this game.
Following the Hamilton game, the Riders get another bye week. After that, it's an all-important home-and-home series with Calgary to finish the regular season. Well, autumn is out in all its glory in southern Saskatchewan. Look how gorgeous things look over at Kiwanis Park in Regina. And without any windy days in the forecast, we might actually get to hang on to those gorgeous leaves a little while longer. Ethan will have more for you in his forecast after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. About 35,000 customers are still without power across parts of PEI and Nova Scotia, more than a week after Fiona swept through Atlantic Canada. In Nova Scotia, about 19,000 customers are still waiting to be connected back to the grid. In hard-hit areas of Cape Breton, crews were restoring power street by street in some neighborhoods. And on PEI, crews are still working to restore power to about 16,000 customers. Meanwhile, today, most public schools on the island did reopen after being closed all last week after the storm.
I just don't know what to do with it. I have nothing. I have no car. I have no home.
Search and rescue crews are continuing their search for survivors along Florida's southwest coast as residents come to grips with the widespread devastation and destruction left behind Hurricane Ian. At least 61 deaths are being attributed to the storm in Florida and 4 in North Carolina. More than 1,600 people have been rescued so far in Florida. Officials are warning residents to stay off the streets so first responders and power crews can gain access. Estimated losses from the hurricane are as high as $47 billion U.S.
This weather update is brought to you by Capital Ford Lincoln, making back to busy easy.
And our weather specialist, Ethan Williams, joins me now. Quite the foggy morning in Regina today.
Yeah, visibility down to just hundreds of meters in and around Regina and portions of southern Saskatchewan. But then the sun came out. We got a lot of clearing, and it has been an above average day, as much as between 5 and 7 degrees above average for a lot of locations across the province, including both Regina and Saskatoon, which should be around 14 degrees this time of year. Even La Ronge should be around 10, got up to 15 today. And temperatures still nice even at the 6 o'clock hour, roughly sitting around the 20-degree mark. West central and southwestern Saskatchewan into those low 20s, just below 19 in Yorkton, really cooling off in Hudson Bay, where we're just at 14 right now. But this pleasant weather, and at least the sunshine and lighter winds, should be sticking around. That jet stream still kind of almost bisecting the province, but south and central going to stay nice. The hottest weather staying in BC, though, over these next few days. That includes as this ridge starts to build in the jet stream. A lot of warm air fueling into southwestern Alberta and BC. We are kind of caught in the middle here. We have some troughing in the jet stream. Northeastern half of the province going to be seeing a little bit of unsettled weather over the next few days. South and west going to remain quite nice. Now, the only thing is we have this high pressure in place, and that will keep us nice over the next couple of days with that sunshine. But we are watching a little bit of a system moving through the north of the province. And yes, that is snow that is moving through extreme northeastern portions. But don't worry, don't think it's going to be very much. This moves in tomorrow afternoon through the evening hours into early Wednesday. And it's probably going to be mixed with a lot of rain too. But again, Stony Rapids eastward to the Manitoba border, just keep that in mind. The rest of us, we're going to be seeing fairly pleasant conditions tomorrow. And then we move into Wednesday, Thursday. This is a pretty large area of high pressure. The high pressure here is quite intense, and that means it'll drop temperatures for most of us going into Wednesday, Thursday, maybe some showers in southwestern Saskatchewan as well. Winds going to pick up in the far north as we head through the day tomorrow. And then as that high pressure moves in, wind's going to be calming down there. But to the south, winds picking up between 30 and 40 on Wednesday in most locations. Keep in mind, we could see fog again tonight, especially in the eastern half of the province. There is the possibility of some smoke from forest fires in the north. And that is going to be moving through northwestern Saskatchewan tomorrow. The heaviest amounts around Uranium City tomorrow afternoon. Then as the wind moves that out, it looks like we see a bit of a calm down into Wednesday morning. Fog possibly dropping visibility in places like Yorkton and Estevan going through the night and into the commute early tomorrow morning. And then we're all clear by the noon hour. Now, taking a look at our next few days in Regina, this is what I mean by this cool down come Wednesday, Thursday. That high pressure really taking force. And those overnight lows getting close to -5. We should be around 13, 14 degrees. That'll be quite below normal, but it really doesn't last long because we're into above seasonal conditions as we get through the rest of the week and into next week. In Saskatoon, again, a beautiful day tomorrow. Temperatures going to, again, be well above normal. Then that quick cool down. So a bit of a free fall, Sam, I guess you could say, into fall, and then we're right back into the nice weather.
It took everything in me not to boo you when you said snow.
Well,
just saying.
Yeah, that too.
Snow and free fall. Thanks for nothing, Ethan.
You're welcome. Anytime.
The excitement started to unfold in front of us. They definitely were kind of harassing each other. That was a lot of orca with 2 humpbacks, but you know, humpbacks, that's a huge animal to try and kind of take down. Every direction that you looked, there were animals, lots of splashing, lots of orcas breaching, peck slapping from the humpbacks. It was just really kind of a once in a lifetime experience.
A rare treat for whale watchers in BC who got a front row seat in what appeared to be a battle between whales. The hours-long interaction happened out in the waters west of Victoria, with the massive marine mammals nipping and jumping at each other as the humpbacks worked to fight off, becoming a meal for the pot of killer whales. Experts in the area say orcas are the only natural predators for humpbacks within that coastal region. We'll be back after the break.
There are many people who bring success, innovation, accomplishment, and charity to our community. It's time to celebrate them. CBC Future 40 will honor 10 Saskatchewanians under 40 making a difference. Help us discover the inspiring people in our province by nominating a shining star in your community today. CBC Future 40. For details, visit cbc.ca/future40sk.
Ottawa has announced new sanctions against Iran. It follows the death of a woman who died in police custody. But as Tom Perry reports, activists say Canada needs to go even further in its efforts to isolate the Middle Eastern country.
In Iran, the protests continue. Demonstrators venting their anger over the death of Mahsa Amini, the young woman who died after being detained by Iran's morality police. While expressing sympathy for Amini, Iran's supreme leader calls the ongoing demonstrations riots designed by America. Today, a response from Canada. New sanctions targeting 25 individuals and 9 organizations, including Iran's morality police and senior members of its Revolutionary Guard.
Well, I think the sanctions are a good starting point, but by no means are they satisfactory to those of us that work on Iran issues.
Lawyer Kaveh Shahruz helped organize a rally this past weekend in Richmond Hill, just north of Toronto. Tens of thousands of people came out to denounce Iran's leadership and call on Canada to take a tougher stance against Iran's Revolutionary Guard, the group responsible for shooting down Flight PS 752 in 2020, killing 176 people, including more than 50 Canadians, demanding Ottawa declare it a terror group.
When you're listed as a terror organization, your assets are immediately frozen. Affiliation with a terrorist organization is a criminal offense under our criminal code.
Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre took part in the weekend rally and today called out the Prime Minister for skipping the event.
The Prime Minister didn't have the guts to show up because he didn't want to have to explain why he has failed to criminalize the IRGC, the terrorist arm of the Iranian government, which killed over 50 Canadians when it attacked a civilian aircraft.
We are imposing new sanctions, and you know what, Mr. Speaker? We will do more because more needs to be done. Thank you.
Melanie Joly says more sanctions are on the way, that all options are on the table. The opposition calls that empty words and says what's needed right now is action. Tom Perry, CBC News, Ottawa.
Ukrainian forces have scored more gains in their counteroffensive. Ukrainian troops have retaken ground on at least 2 fronts in the regions Russia is trying to annex. These troops celebrated victory in Limon, a strategic rail hub in eastern Ukraine. Ukraine is also making hard-won gains in the south. Russian forces are reported to be suffering from manpower, weapons, and morale problems. Moscow is facing growing international and opposition to its invasion of Ukraine. And Ethan is back with one last look at tonight's weather.
And after some possible fog in Regina, Sam, we'll see 13 degrees at 8 a.m. Not all that bad. East winds around 35 kilometers an hour. Those will pick up a little bit as we head to the noon hour. 20 degrees on our way to a high of 22 with sun and clouds. Saskatoon, we're looking at 14 with mostly cloudy skies tomorrow morning. Those east winds pretty breezy as well. And we get to the noon hour, very similar conditions there too. We're looking for 20 with some sun and cloud on our way to a high of 23. Now I want to show you this photo that Patty sent us from Waskesiu Lake. That is a cloud that's shaped like a feather with a rainbow through it. Here's a closer look. It's actually a cirrus cloud called an iridescent cloud, and it's where sun hits the cloud, and that's what forms the rainbow, unlike a traditional rainbow, Sam. But I'm not sure if there's a pot of gold at the end of that one.
That is absolutely beautiful. Thanks for sharing, Ethan.
You bet.
And that is it for us tonight. For news anytime, you can always head to our website or subscribe to the CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel. Glenn Reed and Ethan will be back with more local news and weather tonight at 11. Thank you for watching and have a great night.